Alright, welcome to our data analytics course with Python. I'm Simeon Gabriel. For those of us that are joining us, or those of us that have missed our other classes, we are on data structure and we talked about tuples and list data structure, which we did so many operations in tuples and we did so many operations in list. And we're going to further ahead. We have four data structures in Python. We have tuple list that we have treated, and we have dictionary and sets. That's the ones we're going to be talking about, dictionary and set. So before I start with anything, I will want to do something I didn't show us in the last class. Like this, if you want, this is actually a project. This is a file. So if you want to rename this file to stop having the untitled name here, so that when you revisit Jupyter Notebook, you can just go directly to it and open it, than opening new file over and over again. So we'll just label the file. We'll come to this place, let's say file, then you come look at this place, rename. So I can say I can rename it to be okay, dit in short form of dictionary and set. That's what we're going to talk about. So you can rename it whatever you want to rename it, so that whenever you want to revisit it, you can just open it direct. Okay, now you can see this is where you can see the name of it here. So whenever you come to this place, you see what I said, dit and setup and set. Sorry. So okay, let's move further to our class for today. Okay, and those of you that are just wondering what are these people doing, this may be your first time of programming in Python or programming as a whole. You may be wondering all these things that you are writing, what is the need, what, like, okay, now these things we are writing are programs. They are the syntax. Now when you are programming something, you write code pertaining to that particular programming language. Every programming language has a syntax, and syntax has structures. The structures, just like English language has structure, so does programming language. Do operations, to anything you want it to do for you, it will do for you. So now this is just the basis of the programming that I've explained to you. Now we're going to continue with our class. We are going to continue with dictionary. We did so many things on list and tuples. We said tuples are, I'm recapping on what we did in the last class. We said tuples are one dimensional. We talked about what one dimensional means. We said tuples are immutable, which means they cannot be modified, and they can contain mixed data types. And the same thing applies to lists. Lists are one dimensional, they are mutable, which means they can be modified, and they also contain mixed data type. Now, another difference between tuples and lists is that tuples have the elements are contained inside curved brackets, curved parentheses, while in list we make use of square brackets, where the elements are in square brackets. So you can visit our lesson 1 and 2 to see what we did there. Now today we're going to talk about dictionary, and we say dictionary stores mapping between a set of keys and a set of values. So we'll get that to your head, and we'll be doing some operations in dictionary. Dictionary operation you can define a dictionary, like let's create a dictionary. Let's create a dictionary. Okay, we're talking about, okay, let's comment. We also always try to comment in our courses, so that when you are doing, somebody can be able to read your code and know what you are doing. Okay, we'll be typing. Yeah, what are we to type? We'll be typing we want to create a dictionary. I'm creating a dictionary, so I'll be very slow so that you understand the concept of what I'm trying to communicate to you. Now we say, okay, let's give it a variable first dictionary. You can name it whatever you want to name it, but in this case I want to name it as first deep. I told you sometimes deep we can refer it to dictionary. Okay, so you can name this whatever you want to name it. You can put your name here, whatever you want to name it. It's a variable which will put the value that which the variable is holding. Now in a dictionary, this is the parenthesis we use, this particular parenthesis. So we'll move further. So now we list our elements in it. Okay, we say, okay, let's say John, or let's say John. Okay, John. Then we'll put our column. We said, I said earlier that dictionary has to do with what? With mapping between keys and what, and the values and set of values. Now we started by saying John. John here is the key, then column, then before the value which John holds. Okay, now we write, okay, let me write John, okay, sorry, John what? Okay, let's just say John at ABC. Okay, so let's put a comma. Let's write here Kelly. Kelly is a keyword here, holding what? Let's write what is holding here, the value. Let's write okay, Kelly at XYZ. Let's just put that .org. Okay, then we put a comma. Every time you are done with the key and the value, you put a comma to get another one if it will still continue. Now let's say ID, and this ID, okay, sorry, ID, put a column. Now want this ID to carry a list of value. Now you can insert the element, can be a list, the element can be a tuple, so whatever you want to do with it, since it's a key to value mapping. So let me just say that this ID is carrying a value of a list, so use the bracket that's used in representing the list. So I may write 23 comma 81, let's say 81. Okay, now we're done with this. So when you are done with the mapping inside the dictionary, you don't have to put a comma in the last after the last element. So you just leave the last element like that. So let's run it so that we'll, okay, let's say view. In this case, let's say view entire. So take your time to always comment on your work, so that whoever is reading the code will know what you are doing. That is how to be a good programmer. So want to view the entire dictionary here, the entire dictionary that we have done here. Want to view it. So what do? Help me out. You can pause the video and view it yourself. Okay, let me help you out also. Whenever you want to view, you call on the variable holding the dictionary, holding the value so of the dictionary. So we'll say first dit. Mind you, don't make mistake in calling the variable, because Python is a case sensitive programming language. So as we call it, we run. You see, this is the output of what we did here. So okay, now we want to move at want to view only keys. Now I told you that dictionary is the mapping of keys and what, a set of values. Okay, now want to view the keys, only the keys. That's what we want to get. So you can call on the variable holding a dictionary, and what you will use the key function dot keys. So functions in Python always carry parentheses. Remember, function in Python always carry parentheses. You can see, and most times when you want to add a function to a variable, you mostly put the dot sign before the function. So take note of that. So want to, with this function keys, want to call on only the keys. Okay, let me indicate it here so that you know what I'm doing in every class, so that I don't get misinterpreted. Okay, let's say view only keys, view only keys. So let's run it and see. You can see this thing we wrote here, first dit dot keys parenthesis. See, this is what it gave us. It had putted what uh um dictionary. So it's showing you that this is dictionary keys. You can see it. Okay, so we move further. Let's view only values. Let's comment view only values. So we're going to view only the values. Say the dictionary is key, a set of keys to what, to a set of value mapping. So this is the value of this key John. This is the value of this key Kelly. This is the value of this ID. So this ID holds a list. So this is it. So let's view the values. Let's see what will come out. Now we will say first, we're calling on the variable first dit. Okay, then what do we do? Dot. Is it dot what? Can you guess it? Yes, dot values. Dot values. Okay, dot values. You see the parenthesis here. I told you it's always dot. After the variable you want to work a function on, you say dot, then you write the function and put parenthesis. Okay, dot value. Now let's see if it will put the values. Now look at the values. John at ABC, Kelly at XYZ, and ID, which is having a list of 23 and 81. You can see it here as I put it here. So you look at it, did values. So we'll move ahead to access and modify did element. Now we'll see whether uh, um, dictionary, whether we can access and modify the elements in the dictionary. So let's see. Say okay, you can access and modify individual elements in a dictionary. So let's prove it. Okay, we see in the case of tuple, we're not able to modify. Okay, you are seeing a scenario where you are filling something. Maybe you are filling a form. There are places where you cannot modify, and there are cases where there are things you cannot delete. So that is where you can apply things like tuple. Maybe saying, where can I apply this, where can I apply that? You can also apply a list where maybe when you are adding people to something, you can add, you can remove, something like that. You can, that's where we use list. These are scenarios where we use list, where you can be able to modify and do the rest. So you can be asking, all these things we are doing, where are we going to apply them? So there are so many cases where you can apply them. Okay, so let's talk about the um, access sorry access and modify did did elements. Okay, now let's see. Now you see here, you see this and did, they are inbuilt attributes. So what we have to do, let's just put a comment on it. What did I do? I did backslash. I just did control backslash, and my right up here changed to what, a comment line. So okay, so I want to make this bold, so I want to use as a heading. I'll come to this drop down here, you go to markdown, and you can see it's bold. So run. Okay, now what we'll do next is let's see whether we can access and modify elements like list. Okay, we are still working with our variable first. Don't forget first did, and mind you, you can still, maybe you can write a new variable with dictionary holding other values. Okay, remember you can do that. You must not use what I'm using, but for the sake of this tutorial, you just have to follow me along. Let me hold your hand so that you can go through this together. So okay, now I want to call on, I want to see, let's access, want to access with key. Let me comment on it. Want to access, sorry, access with keys. So want to access via keys. Let's see, I told you these are the keys. So still on the same note, this key is 0, this one is 1, so this one is 2. So after every comma we have the index number 1, index number 0, this is 1, this is 2, like that. So okay, so we want to access via keys. Okay, in this case we are not going to be accessing via index number. If you want to access in a dictionary, you access via keys, unlike the list and the top where you access via index number. Okay, so I want to make that known to you. So we want to access via keys. So these are the keys: John, Kelly, and ID. So I want to say Kelly. And mind you, Kelly is a string here. So when you want to write it here, you don't just write it Kelly, because if you do that, it will not bring the result. So what you have to do is what you put a double quote or a single quote. Okay, so let's see how we go about that. So red light, Kelly, you see, let's access it and see. You see Kelly at XYZ. You can see it here. This is what Kelly is holding. Kelly at XYZ. Let's see if we can, let's modify something here and see. Let's use a small letter for Kelly. Let's see whether it will give us what we want. To return an error. You see, I told you Python is case sensitive. So in this place, our key was a capital letter K. So in this place, I used the small letter K, and that's why it's giving me an error, telling me that key error. There's an error in the key. So you try as much as possible to know how to read errors, how to debug your code. Okay, so we'll come back to change this to capital letter K. So be careful when you are coding, when you are programming. Okay, so we'll run this again. You see, we're having a value here. Okay, all right, so we move ahead. Let's see what we can do further. All right, let's try to modify the dictionary. Let's try to modify it. Let's see how we can modify it and update it. So let's say, okay, another operation I want to do here, modify dictionary. Okay, let's say it's a kind of update. Okay, so what we will do, we'll say first, we are still using the variable first date. Okay, I'm still using the variable. You can use any kind of, so once you know what you're doing, so let's modify it. Let's use the modification function update. Let's use the modification function update. Okay, let's update it. Let's see what we can update it with. I told you almost every function in Python carry the parentheses. Okay, so let's see. Okay, let's see whether we can update what are we going to update? Okay, let's update id. Let's update id. Let's change this 23 to 32, and let's change this 81 to 55. Okay, this value which id is holding, let's see if you can modify it. So you bring the dictionary. Okay, bring it. You say id, don't forget to put your, so id which is holding a what. Okay, let's, by using this, okay, 32 comma what are we going to use, 55. Okay, that's what I said. Okay, so let's see if these numbers will be modified to this. We want to update it, so let's see, update. let's call it. In this case, we're going to call this one, call it first dit. Okay, let's output it to C. Oh wow, okay, you see, it has changed. It has changed. At least here, that is the value for ID has changed to 32 and 55, whereas before, previously, we're having 23 81. You can see how this is out of date in the dictionary. You can see in cases where these things can be applied when you're programming and there's something you want to do for something to update, for something to update, you can use a dictionary. Okay, so you can use a dictionary. Maybe you want to add a name to something, or you want to add a variable to something, you can use these functions. And so don't just say we are just writing and writing because we enjoy writing code. No, these codes can be applied in so many cases. I did there was a certain time I was coding. I wanted to um, develop a program where, in the case where we'll be taking attendance in our classes. You know, in our classes, in our university days, we take attendance with paper. So I was writing a program where we can, any student that comes to class, the name will be updated for that day. So I was thinking, what will I use? What will I use? And I remember that time I started programming Python. I said, okay, um, a a dictionary is a dictionary. I think in that case I used a dictionary, a list. Yes, I did that. So these are ways in which you can apply this thing. Don't say we're just writing code. Now we move further. We move further. You see what we can do with. Okay, we can do so much with dictionary. We can delete. We can delete in the dictionary. These are part of modification. These are still under modification. Okay, let's say modify dictionary. Okay, let's say modify dictionary. Let's say we are going to use the delete operation. Delete, let's say the delete. How do we do this? Okay, in the delete operation, this is what we'll do. We'll do del. This is the attribute for delete. So this is how to delete. Then you specify the variable of the um, dictionary you want to delete. So this is the variable. And what do you want to delete? I told you, anytime you are doing an operation with a tuple, with a list, with a dictionary, with a set, this is, you want to modify something. Mostly this is what we use, the square bracket. Okay, so we are modifying id id. I want to delete id from this dictionary. I want to delete it. I want to delete it. I want to delete it. Maybe you have where you've listed names of your students. You have students, and maybe one leaves the school and you want to delete that person's credential. You can still use a dictionary. You can use a dictionary. I'm just using this as an instance. Okay, let's want to delete the person's information from our register. We can use the delete of then the variable of that person, the variable holding that person's information. So let's run and see. So let's run it. Let's check first dit. Let's output oh, sorry let's out oh, let's output this so that we will know whether this id has been deleted or not. So let's run. Okay, you see John, this is John, this Kelly, this is where is id? We are not seeing id again. We have deleted it. These are how to apply these things. These things are real. Programming is, you want something to happen the way you want, you do it by what? By coding. Okay, by writing the syntax. It's just like English language. I want to write a letter, or I want to say something to somebody, then there's a way I can write it using the English vocabulary, using the English syntax, the structure. Okay, so this is it. Now we move further. Okay, we move further. If there's any question, please reserve your question, and maybe you comment your question in the comment section. When you, after watching the video, you comment anywhere you are confused, so that I can be able to read it and visit that, so that we'll address that together. Now let's move at that. We have so many operations on dictionary, but let's just apply these few that we have here. So okay, let's see. um, the data structure, data structure set. Let's see. Now I told you whenever you want to change this to a comment section, what you have to do is you do control backslash. So I want to, since I have this hash tag here, I can still change it to a heading, can make it bold, you see, so don't get confused. Okay, now we'll say, okay, let's see what is a set. What is a set? Let's write something about a set here. Okay, a set is an unordered collection of unique unique elements. Okay, let's see. I told you that I can reduce the size of this my heading by adding hashtag, as many hashtag as I want, but there's a particular range of hashtag you put that it will stop affecting the change. Okay, so you see, so let's leave it here. Okay, you see, a set is an unordered collection of unique elements. So now let's see what is a set. Okay, this is how to create a set. First of all, let's create a set so you understand what a set is. Create a set. Okay, let's create a set. Okay, let's call our set what are we going to call it? Auto survey. Okay, you can name it whatever you want to name it. Your variable you can name it cow and anything. You can put your name here, but whenever you are doing anything, try to give a variable that matches what you are doing. Okay, try to give a variable that matches what you are doing, so that whoever is reading your code will don't, you are doing something very unique, you are putting something else. Somebody reading your code said this programmer is not sensible, is not a serious person. So use what is related, use the variable that is related to what you are doing. You can see in this case we're using a dictionary, we're using first dit, so it's what is related. So that's how to name a variable. Okay, we say set. Now whenever you want to use the set data structure, make sure you indicate the set first. Set, okay, and you come with your parentheses, then a square bracket in it. Okay, so let's see what this gives us. So let's say let's give okay, we say auto survey, which means we want to use automobiles. Okay, let's see. You can use the double quote, you can use the single quote, whichever one. Let me use the single one. So whenever you are doing a string, you can use double quote,